I want to tell you the story about my friend Jon in Romania because he exemplifies better than anything how we're trying to work into the nations right now from our base here in East Grinstead. People are beginning to ask questions: how is what we're doing now different from the old kind of missionary models where we just send money and send people and support for many years? And I think Jon's story really helps us to understand the way that we work. He's planted over 25 churches in the north of Romania since communism fell in the early in 89, and since the early 90s he's planted over 25 churches. He's done a superb work, gathered thousands of men and women and young people, raised up many leaders, and seen a great work established. A work that's now struggling mainly because of economic and financial pressures. The economy is busted. People have no expectation of work, no experience of taking initiative. The old legacy of the communist era and regime still hangs over them. And so in spite of planting over 25 churches, Jon finds that he has no income other than the small amount that we send him as a local church every month. This is a very difficult situation. And so a guy of 60 years old who's planted many churches is finding that he's having to work through the summer on building sites, construction sites, in order to pay his bills and care for his family. This is where our way of working begins to impact what we're doing with Jon. We're finding that we're wanting to help him transition from a handout model, that I guess if you want to call it the old missionary model, to a new way of thinking whereby we help Jon and his family and those around him to release some simple micro enterprises, some small businesses that can become self-sustaining, that enable them to develop job skills, that enable them to generate a little bit of wealth so that they can feed their families, look after their homes, and invest a little bit in the local church planting initiative. This is a great step forward, and we're beginning to see it work and take root in a number of places that we're working in. However, with Jon and his friends in the north of Romania, there is such a legacy of hopelessness and misunderstanding about this way of working, and such a long-standing expectation of receiving handouts, that it's a very difficult transition to make to bring people into this way of thinking and working. And so we're finding with Jon and with others like him perhaps that actually in the short term, whilst we begin to work this way, we need to increase his monthly support in order to release him from doing all the running around that he's doing to try and pay his bills, so that he can begin to invest some time and some energy and some thinking time into new ways of working with microfinance, to release him in his church planting. And so really that's where we find ourselves at the moment, in the middle of this transition phase, recognizing that we want to help guys like Jon move into a new way of working. We want to release him from his dependency on handouts from the West, but in order to do that we probably have an 18-month to 2.5 year period where perhaps we even need to increase our handouts, with the caveat that during that time we will help him build up businesses that enable him to be released from those handouts. Our handouts are limited, they're finite. When another crisis comes along, handouts get spread all around the world, and works that have been established in places like Romania begin to struggle and crumble because the money is no longer coming in. Surely there's a way one day whereby men like Jon and those that are standing with him can generate their own wealth and see their own local economies changed in some way, so that churches can be planted that aren't dependent on financial handouts from the West. That's part of how we're trying to work into the north of Romania, and I hope it helps you understand in some way what we're doing. Thank you.